All right. So welcome. This is I'm excited to do this. This is Rich here, and yeah, man, it's good to have you on. I'm excited.
Definitely, Derek. I appreciate you having me, man. Looking forward to it.
So yeah, just to kind of get started here, just maybe introduce yourself, like what kind of your background and you know, your story maybe a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So my name's Rich Wonders. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a nationwide wholesaler, do everything virtually. I also train acquisitions teams. Novations are kind of my specialty. Novations, when you take a wholesale deal and you list it on the market while it's still in escrow. And yeah, I've had quite the journey. Started out in real estate working for Sean Terry, worked with him for 2 years, worked with Corey Geary as well for about 8 months, been doing my own thing for a while, kind of, fell into wholesaling kind of unsuspectedly. I had a buddy, his name's Jared Piper, and I knew he was a real estate agent. And I saw on his Facebook, I saw him taking trips to all these cool places, like it's in South America and jumping over to Asia and doing lots of cool stuff. And I hit him up. I was like, man, what's going on? It seems like you're living a pretty nice lifestyle here. And I found out he was no longer an agent. He was just strictly wholesaling. He's later moved on. Now he's a landlord. He fixed and flips. He does apartments, does all sorts of cool stuff. But that's what kind of, he let me know what he was on to. And that's how I kind of got introduced, is I just really dove into wholesaling on YouTube. That's how I ended up finding Sean Terry. So basically at the time when I found this, believe it or not, I was actually selling vacuums door to door.
Oh, really?
So yeah, most people don't even realize that that's like actually still a thing. But I sold Kirby vacuums for like 9 years. And the guy I worked for, his name's Don Burkhart, is just a very, very charismatic and very smart businessman. And that's where I kind of got my sales chops. He was doing like a couple $1,000,000 a year. And, basically at the time when I started doing that, I was in the recording business before that, kind of on like a local level. I was very passionate about it, but basically all the stars were aligning against my favor at the time. And I found myself, broken up with my, at the time, girlfriend, kicked out of her apartment, and found myself sleeping on the floor of the recording studio and working there during the day and pretending to leave and then coming back and working through the night and sleeping there and getting out before everyone came. So yeah, that's, not exactly like an ideal place to be in life. And that's how I came across Kirby. Was I found the first place that I called that was hiring, went down there and they offered me a job. And it ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me. We sold like $2,500 vacuums door to door. And, we're selling someone something they don't think they need, that's 10 times more than the most expensive thing they can think of in that category. And we got 2 hours to do it right then. And if you don't sell it right then, there's like a 99.9% chance it'll never happen. So, if you can get good at that,
Yeah.
it makes other types of sales seem pretty easy.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of stories actually that are similar. The people started out with kind of door-to-door sales, and so that directly translated into wholesaling for you, basically, right?
Well, it was awesome because I was used to going into people's houses. I was used to making them comfortable. I was used to being able to build the rapport, go through a presentation, and then I knew how to persevere through resistance, because there's a lot of resistance. You can imagine, like selling a $2,500 vacuum. Don't get me wrong, dude, it's an awesome cleaning system, right? But still $2,500 spur of the moment, that's kind of a tough sell, right? But yeah, no, it was great because I saw the way they ran the teams. I saw the way they did the hiring. I saw the way they managed everything. The guy I worked for too kind of had a more sophisticated system than most of the other people, where they had like a phone room where a lot of our appointments were being preset for us. So that did take a lot of the pain, because knocking door to door, I mean, that's super tough. And I did some of that, but luckily a lot of that I didn't have to do. But it translated, and that's how I actually got Sean Terry to hire me. Is I hit him up on Instagram, basically just told him my story and told him I've been following him. I've been doing this for, at the time, I had been doing it for 9 years. Made decent money. I was making like close to 6 figures some years and a little bit over 6 figures other years. But like a typical salesman, I spent every dollar that I earned. And you know what I mean? Won cool trips there and did all that. But I knew the next 9 years were not going to involve me selling vacuum cleaners. I didn't want to have my own office. I had tried that for 2 years. I knew what that entailed. I wasn't trying to roll that boulder back up the hill. So I knew it was kind of time for me to change. And that's how I came across wholesaling, was through my buddy. And then I ended up working for Sean Terry for 2 years. Huge blessing, huge blessing. I gained so much knowledge during that time. And we went from doing completely in-house model locally for the first year to the second year, doing everything virtually nationwide, running off all inbound leads. So we were doing PPC. He has some other marketing channels too. We did some direct mail. We had some cold callers kind of sporadically, but huge opportunity to be able to work alongside with someone like that, because he just had so much experience, so much charisma, and he just really had the wholesaling thing down. He's taught like tons of people how to do this business, and a lot of the big names that people know that you hear of, a lot of them got introduced to wholesaling through Sean Terry. So he's kind of like, like a figure in the business.
Right. So how did those how did the kind of the basic fundamental skills in sales, like how did that initially directly translate into what you started doing when you're working for him?
Yeah, well, it was so crazy. So what made me want to work for him was his sales process on how he went into houses and set things up. It was so many parallels to what I was already doing in Kirby, and I had already done it on a high level, and I knew it worked. So it was like, in terms of me buying into his process, I'm like, dude, like I'm already doing this process with another product, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is you get in the house, you break the ice, you make them comfortable, you build rapport, you show genuine interest in them. Like you have to really, to be good in sales, to be really good in sales, you have to have a genuine love for people. You can't just be like a hard closer, slick talker. You'll get some success like that. But if you find people that are like the top, most if not all of them have a big heart for people, and they genuinely care, and they sell or a product or service that they truly believe will benefit the person that they're dealing with, right? And I think that's important. You have to really believe that what you're doing is of benefit to them, because that belief transfers, and that's really all sales is just a transfer of belief, and just understanding the prospect, what their needs are, not what I think they need, but what problems do they want solved. And you kind of, a lot of times you have to solve them in the way they want them solved, or at least paint the picture where you're taking them down that path, acknowledging what they want, and then finding a solution they can agree with. So selling vacuums and getting someone to sell their house at a discount in person, tons of parallels in that. And we would sit them down at the table at the very end, just like Sean Terry taught me to do, with paperwork. We would do an assumptive close. The sales process, I found just from talking to other people in different industries, human beings are human beings, no matter what the product is. And there is kind of like a process and kind of like steps that you take and checkpoints you have to hit for someone to make a big decision.
Right.
So.
Yeah. The way that I've heard is like, there's a big difference too between kind of low ticket sales and high ticket sales. And I'm assuming a lot of things that are kind of high ticket sales, especially like when you're working with, I don't know, maybe someone who's, thinking about selling their house, that's pretty high ticket. So what I've been told is it's all relationship based, basically, is the way that I've
100%. Because with anything that's high ticket or high stakes, you want to do business with someone that you like and trust.
Yeah.
Because if you don't like them, you don't want to do business. If you don't trust them, especially with your house, like, no way. You know what I mean? So it's not even as much about what you say, it's what you say that they genuinely believe. Because you can say all the right things, but if they don't like and trust you, it doesn't matter. It's go in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
And then the phone's very similar, but the thing with the phone is you have far less tools. You know what I mean? Like in person, you have body language, you have, mannerisms. Like when you're in someone's house too, it's much harder for them to kick you out of their house, like than it is to hang up on the phone on you. To hang up on the phone, like if you really offend someone or they don't like what you say, boom, you're gone. You know what I mean? Right there. In the house, it's a little bit more of an awkward moment where they're like, oh, I just remembered I gotta go pick up my granddaughter at school. And that would happen in Kirby too. And I've seen that happen in wholesale deals where people make up some lame excuse and then like you come back or you circle around the block and you come back like 10 minutes later, they're still home. Like they never went anywhere.
Right.
But but yeah, so like in person and on the phone, it is two different ball games. But the nice thing about being on the phone is it's so much more scalable because the amount of people you can talk to, the different markets you can go to, and it is beautiful. And with a motivated seller, if you can get in front of them at the right time, like you can do way more deals if you're doing stuff virtually than you could like in person. And it's much easier to train someone too. And you can break that process down into segmenting the labor where you've got person on the front end getting the lead, you've got the person nurturing the lead, and then you have a closer coming in. Or if you're a one-man band, I mean, you can do it all. But with like in person, it's really kind of a special type of person that wants to drive around and do that all day. And then you have to build up all these skills, beforehand before you're really proficient at it. So
Right. So yeah, that's kind of a question I had. So like, what are the skills that you feel are like the most transferable from doing it in person to then doing it online? And maybe like, what is not transferable, would you say?
So the most transferable is definitely going to be your listening skills are the most important thing. Being a great listener is much more important than being a great speaker. Because if you can listen well, it's more about being able to ask the right questions to uncover the hidden problems and the hidden motivation and learning how to make people comfortable so that they're giving you genuine answers and they're not just throwing curveballs at you, trying to throw you off or just trying to get rid of you. So being a good listener is one, of course, in person, your tone, your pace, your energy, that's all very, very important. And on the phone, it's everything. Like that's all you got is how you sound to them. The words you use, the way you say them, your energy and all that is everything. And if you can transfer that good energy to them over the phone and make them feel good after they talk to you, that's a very valuable skill because there's a good chance that they're not just talking to you. So, if you can be the person that stands out, that genuinely cares, that seems like an expert, that seems very competent, that seems like they're just like a genuine good person on top of that. And they, you don't have dollar signs in your eyes and you can make logical sense to them. You'll be head and shoulders above everybody else. Because just realize like, if you're talking to them and they're talking to other people, I always just assume that the other people that they're talking to are dropping the ball. It doesn't really worry me too much if they are talking to other people because like I'm very confident in my process, not to be cocky. It's not anything about me as a person. It's just the process that I follow is very effective. And it works for anybody that does the same thing. It's nothing specifically to me.
Right. Yeah, I know that makes sense. And then because like the thing is like for like what I do, right, with when I'm helping people with social media, like I'm trying to do a lot of the similar things, but just kind of with their actual profile, right? Like, making yourself stand out as an authority, like having videos that kind of do what you're talking about, right? Have that kind of energy. And it's kind of what I noticed too, like when people make a video for whether, it's a Facebook, a TikTok, a YouTube, or whatever, kind of advertising they're doing, the energy that they give off and their tone and how they're speaking really makes a big difference even in those videos. So I could see like now how on the other end, when they're the ones actually getting on the phone or on the phone call with these sellers, these inbound sellers, that would be, it would have to be very similar, right? I'm just kind of noticing.
Absolutely. I mean, people make decisions based on emotion and then they justify it rationally after the fact. And we've all had it where we meet someone, we're like, look, I like that person. Like, I like them. I don't know what specifically I like about them, but there's something about them that I really like. Right. And then there's also people where you're like, ugh, they didn't really do anything, but this person kind of gives me the creeps a little bit, or this person's like low energy, or this person seems there's something that seems kind of out of alignment with them, kind of weird, right? So, like, I think a lot of things with sales too is some of the best salespeople, they're really comfortable in their own skin and they have that confidence too. And I think people really gravitate towards confidence because genuine confidence, I think, is kind of a rare thing in this world. And even people that are confident, they have a lot of insecurities, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But people that are genuinely comfortable with themselves, they're even comfortable with their insecurities. And I think when we see that, I think, I know me, like, I gravitate to that. When I see someone that's confident and comfortable with themselves and everything, it just makes me feel comfortable around them too. And I think we all kind of just look for that. And that may even go back to like caveman days of like being in tribes, and you know what I mean? The confident person is the one that can get the food and, get all that sort of thing too. So, but definitely energy is everything, man. That's all we have. Without our energy, we're just, I don't know what we are, a bunch of zombies walking around.
Well, yeah, I really like that idea because like one of the best mentors that I had, that I worked with, the number one thing that I kind of took away from him, that he not maybe not the number one thing, but a really big thing that I took away from him was that sales is leadership. And that's basically the underlying definition of it. You're literally like you're talking about, right? Like with your energy, with your confidence, with the way that your questions that you're asking, like your energy, all that stuff, like you're literally leading them somewhere. And it's not just like where you want them to go, but where is actually best for them to go. Like you actually care about the person, right? Like it's about that
Absolutely.
relationship again. So that's yeah, I really like that. So when you were working for your Sean Terry, right? So he was doing both the kind of in-house kind of sales and also online, right? If you said from PPC and things like that. So like and then there's also just like direct cold calling. What would you say is like kind of the biggest difference between when you're like, or is there any difference when you're just like literally just cold calling lead after lead after lead, or when they're inbound from something like PPC, and like how you're responding to them, how you're going through the sales process, or speaking with the motivated sellers? Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So the lead sources definitely make a difference. 1,000%. It's a different process for a couple of reasons. All right. So like when you're cold calling someone, right? And a lot of this stuff, like I did bang the phones and cold call, especially when I was new. And then also when I was on my own, I did that some. Um, the thing is when you're reaching out to someone randomly, okay, Sean Terry had a thing that he called the seller decision timeline. So over here is someone that maybe wants to sell their house sometime in the future, but has no plans. And then on this side of it is someone that needs to sell it in the next 30 days, right? We'll say like that's the cold call. Anyone that doesn't hang up or cuss you out, they're somewhere in between these 2 points, right? So the problem is there's a lot of nurturing that happens, and there may be some events that are 100% outside of your control that need to happen before they move through this. So there's a whole lot of hand holding, calling back, checking in, staying in front of them, staying on their radar, follow up, making a friend. There's a whole lot of that going because you've already put in the effort to get that lead. You know they're eventually going to get here. You just don't know when, right? You have an idea, but you're not really sure, and you can't let that lead go, right? So it's a much slower process, and the power dynamic is much different. The power dynamic is much more in favor of the seller, and you have to chase a little, not a little more, a lot more. You have to follow up. You have to be softer on your approach. You can't use the same urgency tactics that you can. So like if I were going to say like, okay, cold calls over here on the seller urgency, and then on the opposite end of that is going to be PPC. PPC is the highest motivated because they're literally seeking it out that they need to sell. Now, not everybody that fills out a PPC form is going to be qualified or motivated. You will get people that are just tire kickers that just want to know the price of the house. But if you took 100 PPC leads and 100 cold call leads, like PPC, a lot of times we could do 1 out of 10. We would get a deal. Cold call would be between 1 out of 50 and 1 out of 100. Yeah. So, I mean, that tells you like, and then, so we go cold call, PPC here. I would say right behind PPC would be social media and direct mail. I would kind of put those on similar footing because they're both kind of disruptive marketing, right? And leaps and bounds over cold call. Now, the problem with PPC is it's incredibly expensive and it's very complicated and difficult to set up and maintain unless you have some sort of background in that field. And even so, it's still incredibly expensive and it's still incredibly difficult to maintain. Like there's people that do this for a living that you know have run into problems because things are always changing.
Yeah.
But definitely like inbound is much preferred, but a lot of people when they're starting out or if they have a lot of manpower and they're trying to get the highest ROI, cold calling does have a pretty nice ROI, especially if you have cheap labor doing it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the benefit, but there's a lot of other things that come with it and it's a much slower process. So it's just like kind of what game do you want to play? Like PPC and social media is kind of the high stakes poker table. You're making big bets and you're getting big checks, right? And everything moves super fast. But some people don't want to play $1,000 a hand on blackjack, right? And that's kind of what I would consider like PPC is like you're playing $1,000 a hand and you can go down pretty quick, but you also can come up pretty quick. And then cold calling's more like you're playing with like dollars, you know?
Yeah.
But the social media thing's really cool, man. Like I think that's a really good hybrid between the mix where you're getting motivated, qualified sellers, but you're not having this same astronomical cost. Now it's not going to be as hot of leads as say like the very best, but the cost ratio, you know, depending on who's running what is much more favorable. And I've seen people get really good ROIs on PPC. And I mean, honestly, all marketing works. It just depends on what you can do effectively. And every type of marketing channel you have to do consistently to get the results. It's not like you can just go to the gym one day and lift weights really super hard. And then now you're like jacked and buff. Like you have to do it consistently for it to work. You're like planting seeds. It's not like a one-time, like, you know, oh, we'll try this for a month and see if it works. Oh, I tried it for a month. It doesn't work. Like, oh, it's not, you know, you know, you gotta build things up, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, like you were saying, like you know, because with real estate in general, the sales cycle is, you know, longer than just 30 days a lot of times, right? So that, yeah, just 30 days and done is usually, I mean, it can be effective in 30 days, right? I'm not saying
absolutely
that it can't, but it's just to have like good expectations going into it, I think, like you're saying, is really important. But I really like your breakdown there of kind of like cold calling on this side, PPC on the other. And it's like, you know, then you've got things like, you know, Facebook, YouTube ads, which is kind of, you know, like even it's like you said, direct mail, like it was just kind of disruptive marketing. And you can have kind of a mix in there, right? Like on YouTube, you could have people, you know, that still have an intent. They're searching, trying to figure out how to solve their problem on YouTube. And then you're using disruption marketing to try to get their attention. Facebook, they could be hot, cold, ice cold, right? Warm leads, there could be a lot of different variations in there because they're just people scrolling through social media. And you got to kind of, you know, be ready for that, like when they do come through, right? So it's, yeah. And then with PPC, PPC kind of like you were saying, like they do tend to be more expensive, but that's because they are hotter leads and you can get tired kickers, right? But yeah, so I really like that breakdown, that spectrum that you had there. That's really good.
Yeah. And you know, I love PPC, but don't get me wrong, PPC can break your heart too. Like You'll look down at your phone. It's like, boom, $500 Google, boom, $500 Google. And you look at your CRM, you're like, dude, they just charged me $1,000 today, and I have one lead, because you're paying, it's PPC, pay per click, not PPL, not pay per lead.
Yeah.
Right? It's pay per click. So you're paying for the clickies. So
that's
also too, I think what a lot of people don't realize is it's not just about there's a lot of different things that affect how good your campaign is, right? Like it's the ad copy, it's the keywords, it's everything. It's how quick are you getting to those leads? How's your sales process? Like there's lots of places for things to go wrong. And I've always been a fan of outsourcing things that I'm not really good at, right? Like I've got certain things I'm really good at. And then there's other things that I've tried in the past to like, oh, well, I'm really good at these things. Let me try to figure this out. And I've just found like wholesaling's complicated enough. Like if I can get someone else to be running the marketing portion, I just focus really good on the things that I do, buying and selling properties, takes a lot off my plate, and I can focus more energy on other things. Because I'd rather be training people to slam deals and have someone else just running it. You know what I mean? And let them have all those headaches, because it's a whole nother business. It really is. You know, running all that stuff. And a lot of people try to wear every hat, and then they wonder why they're not getting the same results. And it's like, well, you're just not good at everything. And most people aren't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, yeah, 100%. And that's the thing is like, not everyone wants to be doing micromanaging every little part of their business. And so like, that's basically what I do, right? Like my whole point is to basically try to help investors, wholesalers get their time and energy back, right? So that they're not, because you have to, like with Facebook, for example, you have to check it every single day, right? Like you could be running a campaign 2, 3 days, 4 days, right? And then, or after 2, 3, 4 days, if you're not watching it, and the cost per lead can start going from maybe $25, $30 a lead. And then all of a sudden it's up 50, 75, because you're not paying attention to it. And like, making adjustments and keeping that on track. And so, that being said though, I mean, like what would you say, like maybe like the top 5 reasons that people, whether they're doing inbound lead generation, whether they're getting leads, whether you're doing cold calling directly, like what would you say the top 5 reasons that they're actually not closing those leads? If you, I don't know, maybe not even 5, like maybe even just top 3.
Yeah. So a couple things. I think the biggest overarching thing is people don't know when to shift from, there's 2 parts of things. There's really 3 parts. There's qualifying, there's the selling, and the selling in ours, since we're not actually selling a product, we're negotiating, but it's identifying all the pain points and building rapport. But I think what a lot of people do is once you get that part done, then you have the third portion, which is closing with action. I think what a lot of people do is they get stuck in this middle part, and I call it chasing the seller. They're just keep building rapport. They just keep talking about the pain points, and they don't know. There needs to be a point where the rubber hits the road and you're closing with action, and you're either getting the desired result or you're uncovering a new objection or a new problem that needs to be solved. And I think a lot of people, they're so afraid of losing the deal that they just have trouble when it comes time to draw the line in the sand and make your offer. I think a lot of people have trouble with that, and they're just too wishy-washy with things. So a couple things that have really helped me is couple things, like you're never the decision maker. Like if you're on the phone, you always want to refer to a third party. Okay. The third party is the decision maker. Even if it ends up being you, that's not an important part of the thing. You want to position yourself as on the same side as the seller, and it's you and the seller trying to figure out this issue and trying to convince the third party on how to make this work. I think another mistake a lot of people make is they give verbal offers instead of ranges. Like verbally, I would only give a range. I would never give someone an exact number. because a range builds tension, right? If I give someone a number, I'm basically showing my hand and not even giving them an opportunity to make a decision, or a very low percentage chance of them making a decision. If I give them a low range, and it's a really low range, but the top number of that range is where I really need to be, the seller feels like they're winning when I come back and deliver the offer, and there's momentum and a buildup. I always deliver offers in writing. I do not do verbal offers, only verbal ranges. So chasing the seller, I think, is one problem. People don't know when to close. Giving verbal offers, or just being weak when you give an offer, and not like, if you're giving an offer, you should always assume the close. Like when I give an offer, it's always in the form of paperwork with them sitting at their computer. I make sure that we have time to go over it. I don't let them brush me off. Like, I control the situation. I would say that's another thing. That kind of goes between chasing and leading. So if you're leading, you have your process and they're walking down your path with you. If you're chasing, it's kind of like the difference between walking a dog and having the dog walk you. Not that the sellers are dogs, right? But if you don't like have a path and the dog doesn't know where to go, the dog just runs around and is confused and it's not even happy, right? So like, they need to go down your path, and you have to have the set process. And that actually makes the people more comfortable when they feel like they're walking down like a set process with you. Couple other things. I think people, they have a hard time justifying price reductions. So I think a lot of people, they just look for deals. And if the asking price isn't already in the money where they can sell it, they just move on too quickly. But some of my best deals, and a lot of my deals, their asking price is retail or above retail. The thing I don't look for is asking price. The thing I look for is someone that wants to sell and that has problems to solve.
Right.
Even if that problem is just they need to sell it quick, that's still a problem, right? So I look to identify the problems, and then I also look to really elaborate on the problems, and we talk about the problems and talk through them, because as we're talking through the problems, new problems become uncovered. I can show genuine empathy, because almost all their problems, just from how many sellers I've talked to,
Yeah.
I have stories with people in similar situations and how we help them. I think also using third-party stories is a very powerful tool, because you're relaying a message in a neutral way that is not arguable, right? If I just tell someone, oh man, I really think you should do this, that's one thing, right? And they could be like, whatever. But if I say, hey, I actually had a friend that had a problem that's very similar to this, and this is what they did, and it ended up working out this way, is a much more powerful tool, because you have that cushion of the third party. So I do use quite a bit of third-party stories when they have unique problems, and sometimes it'll be actual situations, or maybe it'll be something that I heard from someone else. You know what I mean? But being able to connect with them on that level and having these stories, and then also living in those pain points for a while, because living in the pain is what gets people to change. So if everything's just cut and dry the whole call, and there's no emotions being brought up, they're going to leave the call the same way they came to it. And that's why people get it. They're all these sellers, they're so hard to deal with. It's like, no, well, yes and no. Like, you're not effectively getting them to open up. And that's a big thing, is getting them to open up and positioning yourself as just like a genuine, good-hearted person, and actually being that, you know what I mean? Not pretending to be that, but just really like, that's who you are. And then that way they feel comfortable, because the thing where people don't want to talk to you and they don't want to tell you their pain points is they think that you're going to take it and use it against them. So if you get really good at opening it up, and that's another thing to having also like a third party decision maker, is it's like, okay, yeah, you can tell me, because at the end of the day, my job is to get this deal done, and I'm your advocate. So I'm going to bring the most important information and make sure we can get these problems solved. Because at the end of the day, these motivated sellers, they want their problem solved. That's the result they want. If someone just wants the most money for their house, and that's the problem to solve, they're going to call a realtor. Like, that's not your avatar. That's not your client. That's not your seller. Your seller is going to be someone that has problems to solve that you can creatively solve.
Right. And with a third party kind of thing, so you're or even just in the process you're describing, so you're kind of acting almost like as a, maybe not assistant buyer, because these motivated sellers aren't really buying anything, but like assistant decision maker almost, right? Like you're the expert advisor, so to speak, in that.
Exactly. Like I'm kind of like a consultant that's just kind of
Yeah.
trapped in the middle, and I'll even position myself with them. Like that's
Right.
something I'll say with them. I'll say, hey, look, our interests are aligned. I only get paid if this deal gets done. So I've got you guys on this side. I've got my underwriting team over here. You're tugging on one arm, they're tugging on the other arm. And I'm here in the middle, just trying to find a happy medium that, everybody can get the most important things to them done, So yeah, positioning yourself as their advocate is super crucial, because if they feel like you're their adversary, you're going to get a different version of this person's personality. And it's not going to be to your benefit or theirs, really.
Yeah. And you would say all of these kind of apply to any situation that you're dealing with, whether these are leads that you've cold called, whether this is in-house, whether this is, this is all applicable to any of those situations, really, whether it's inbound leads.
Absolutely. The principles are all the same, because it's just human nature principles for any sort of stressful decision, right? But it's just the pace and the urgency is what changes, and the timeline. So like if you're in someone's house, you've got basically a 30-minute to maybe 2-3 hour window, if you can really stretch it out and build rapport. So everything that's going to happen has to happen in that window. And on the phone, it's less. You know what I mean? On the phone, yeah. I can't remember the last time I was on the phone for more than an hour with a customer or with a seller, unless like they're elderly and I'm walking them through the paperwork and trying to get the DocuSign open. But
right.
like, you know what I mean? There's really no conversation that would take that long. Like people that are on the phone for more than that, they're probably just listening to a whole bunch of stories, dealing with someone, and that timeline could be cut down. So yeah, the pace is different. And on a PPC lead, I'm trying to close that the same day. Like, cause I know like if I can't close this today or tomorrow, it's gone. Otherwise they weren't ready to sell, or I at least need to make a strong enough impression on them. They're not filling out any more forms. They feel like this is the guy that can get it done. And maybe we just need to go through some other steps to get to the actual finish line.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. Cause like I went at one point a couple of years ago, actually, I was working with a wholesaling team out in Philly. And they were doing PPC, they were doing PPC, they were doing Facebook. But they had a team, especially for PPC leads. They had a team for the morning and the evening, and like even in the middle of the night, right? Different people working. And if a pay-per-click lead would come through, they would literally, it was any inbound lead really, but for PPC, they would call them within 2 minutes. Didn't matter if it was 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
And, I wouldn't suggest that maybe with like with other channels, like if you're doing Facebook, like wait until the morning probably, but with PPC, because they've likely submitted that information to 3 other websites or whatever forms, right?
Yeah. And if you can make that first contact, then they may just blow off their calls in the morning once it's office hours and all the other guys call back, because in their mind they've solved the problem. It's just like if you're looking for a plumber, you go on Google now. In the old days, it was the phone book. You call the first one, they don't pick up. Okay. You call the second one, they don't pick up. You call the third one, they pick up. Okay, great. I found my plumber. The other guys call back. Oh, sorry, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like they're seeking out that mission. So if you can make that first contact with the PPC, absolutely. Like that can, because your competitors, they're likely not calling that back.
Yeah. 100%. And I think the same principle would apply for any kind of disruption marketing, where you're literally trying to distract them from what they were doing and getting them to pay attention to you. And now that's, you have that kind of window of opportunity during the day to get in contact with them. So, but like, so you would say like, like if you were like, what's like the number one thing to improve, like for wholesalers that you work with, what do you see as like the number one thing to actually improve their closing rate? And if you could give like one.
One thing. I would say
Or 2 or 3.
I mean, honestly, the big one is if you give a lower range and then you submit your actual offer via DocuSign or whatever signing platform. Sending your hard number with paperwork and walking them through the paperwork with an assumptive close and never asking them, is this okay? I send the paperwork and then I just start reading through it. And I don't even skip a beat when I hit the price. I go through the whole thing from top to bottom. I read everything. And you can see you'll be getting every penny of $154,000. This $100 deposit is the escrow deposit just to make the contract legal. It's called legal consideration. And then the remainder will be paid at the close of escrow. Like I don't even skip a beat. So I don't ask for the sale. I assume the sale. And that's for everything. It was the same thing with Kirby. I'd hand them a credit application on a clipboard. I'd take a pen. I set it on the clipboard and the pen would roll off the clipboard and it'd fall on their lap and they picked up the pen and then I'd hand it to them. They'd say, what is this? I say, oh, that's just ask for some basic info, name, phone number, birthday, easy stuff like that. Go ahead and start filling that out. Well, what's the, does this mean I'm buying? Yeah, of course you are. You loved it. What do you mean? Silly. You're always cracking jokes. Go ahead and start filling that out. And then like people would laugh and they'd be like, the ball's on this guy. And then they put their head down and they start filling it out, right? It works. Okay. Yeah. You got to get over that. And you have to do it. You have to do it the right way. It has to be done with a smile and good nature. You can't just be like, hand it to them. They're going to think you're a freaking psycho and call the police, right? So if you're building rapport and they already like and trust you and they feel like you're a good person and you've really taken the time to listen to them and assess their needs, and you can give them the solution to their problems. And I also build up everything before I deliver the paperwork. I go back all over all their pain points again. And it just shows them that I do understand, I was listening, and I do care. Yeah. And then I'm giving them the solution, and I make sure in my solution, I'm naming all their pain points so they understand, like, look, this thing's buttoned up. Like, I've got you covered. Don't even worry about it. And that's what gives me the confidence to close with action, because I've already addressed all their concerns. Like, it's done. There's no reason for me to ask. You know what I mean? I'm just going through it, and then they have to stop me. And if they do stop me, then at least I'll get that real objection. Most people, they think, I'm going to ask the question and hopefully they'll say yes. But the thing is, people default to inaction, right? People don't want to say yes. And that's why you'll hear some salespeople say, like, the best way to ask for the sale is by, if they say no, then that's actually them saying yes. Like a question like, so I don't know if this is completely crazy, but would you be offended if we went ahead and just went with this today? Like, if I just signed you up today, would that be too quick for like another type of sale? And then they say no, but it's really them saying yes, then saying, hey, can I go ahead and sign you up today? Right? It's a lot harder to say yes to that than, would it be completely crazy if we just move forward with this today? And then they say no, and it really means yes. So yeah, you got to get past the mental roadblocks of people. And if you make the decision, not make the decision for them, but you just assume that they're going to do it, and you just keep walking through it, you'd be surprised. Like, people will go along with it, and it actually relieves their anxiety, because they're like, oh wait, he's so confident in this. He's moving forward. Obviously he thinks this is the best thing for us. And you know what? I kind of agree. And then they have to get out of their comfort zone to stop me, instead of them having to get out of their comfort zone to agree with me. So I make them stop me rather than them hop on board with me.
Yeah, I really like the way that you put that, actually. I'm gonna have to remember that. That's really good, actually. Well, cool, man. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to say about closing. I mean, you covered a lot, and that's really awesome stuff, really awesome points. But I mean, like, so tell me more, like, about what you're doing currently, like how you're helping people, all that stuff. Because I know that you're currently doing, I've looked through some of your stuff that you sent me, and I just thought it was awesome. So, speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, brother. So a couple things, like, anybody that wants to get connected with, me and other investors like me, we have REI Allies. It's reiallies.com. So we're basically just like a collective of like-minded individuals. We're all real estate entrepreneurs. We believe in, if we all just add value to each other, we all rise up and nothing is lost. So like, for example, like me telling my closing secrets on here, it doesn't harm me. I'm not going to close any less deals because of that. And there'll probably be somebody, or hopefully lots of people, that it helps. Right. And so as you share your secrets, we all have different pieces of the puzzle that are missing. And the idea is, okay, I'm really good at acquisitions. Maybe someone that joins the group, they're really great at dispositions. Maybe there's someone that's really great at this, this, and this. And maybe there's people that are really good at stuff that I didn't even know that was important. But once I meet them, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I'm having people telling me about NFTs and some of this new stuff I know nothing about, right? So the idea with the group is we all just get together. It's a positive go-giver mentality. We share as much as we can. We do cool stuff together. Like I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. Like the vision for the REI group is to get chapters springing up locally, like all over the country. And it's a free thing to be a part of. We don't charge any money, probably never will. Like it's not a money-making thing. It's a connection thing. It's a family thing. We're all real big on families. We like to do cool stuff together. We go off-roading. We go shooting guns in the desert because we're in Arizona and that's what we like to do. We're about to go paintballing. We do water sports. We're doing stuff at the lake, wakeboarding. We got a podcast going too. Like, I'm just looking for guys and girls that are either starting out in the business, that need a leg up, that we can help make their lives better. Because my life is so much better now than it was when I was sleeping on the floor at the recording studio or even selling vacuums 6 days a week. Like, if I can provide this opportunity for someone to help them along the way, like at the end of the day, that's what life's about, is just bringing people up. Making money's awesome, right? But money doesn't solve all your problems. We all probably know someone that's rich and miserable, right? And we probably know someone that's broke and happy, but you can be making money and be happy. And I think one of the key things of that is to give back and make life about experiences and not about things, right? That's a big thing for me. Like I'm all about doing cool stuff with cool people, trying new things and progressing every day. There's nothing wrong with wearing a Rolex. I wouldn't knock someone for doing that. That doesn't really get me going. I don't really care about that, right? But that's me. And there's probably things I care about that, I'm into guitars and stuff, and a lot of people don't care about that stuff either, right? But the REI Allies is one thing. You can go to reiallies.com. I actually have a couple of big projects working where we're launching some call centers. We're doing some remote acquisitions teams. A couple other bigger plays that, I'm not really at liberty to discuss quite yet because it's kind of in the infancy. But my goal is to take whatever skills that I have and share them with the world and provide as much value as I can, right? And help people out. But yeah, as far as acquisitions training, if you want to learn more about novations, you can go to workwithwonders.com. I got my novations course there. It's five 2-hour videos, like 10 hours of content. You have all the paperwork you need. There's 20 recorded calls, so you can actually hear me on the phone. You guys can go to my Instagram. I've got recorded calls on there too. It's richwonders.buys.houses at Instagram. We've got the REI Allies podcast we're launching too, with me and my buddy Ahmad. Really cool guy. We're actually doing our first podcast this Sunday from his high-rise condo in downtown Phoenix. And he's telling his story from how he grew up in Iraq. And he said one of his earliest childhood memories is for entertainment. He'd look out his window and he lived by a police station, and there'd be trucks every once in a while that would roll up and start firing 50 caliber machine guns at the Iraqi police station. And they used to go and we'll look out the window and like crazy stuff, right? And it puts things in perspective. Like sleeping on the floor in a recording studio in America, watching people get blown away in war. It's like, dude, like, no matter what we think our problems are, there's always someone where like your worst day would be like a day that they could only dream of. So I try to keep things in perspective too. You know, if you're alive, you can think clearly, you have someone that loves you or someone you can love, like you're winning, you know what I mean? And you have another chance, no matter how bad your life is, you have a chance to make it better. And I really believe in that. And personal development is like a true passion of mine. And that's something I really want to impart in the world, because this changed my life. Like once I made focus on that, getting my body in shape, getting my mind in shape, getting my finances in shape, getting my family life right, and, you know, becoming the man that like my family needs, you know, like it's just, that's where I get my fulfillment. Like I love nailing deals and stuff. That's not what I live for. Like that's a means for me to live my life and experience all these things with people. I don't care about being the richest person or anything like that, right? Like I think accumulating money is a sign that you're providing value, and I think it's a good indicator of certain things, but that's not what I get out of bed for. And I really want to, like, as much as I can preach that, I think if more people leaned more that direction, we all would live happier lives, and I think the world would be a better place. So that's kind of like my overarching thing, is just preaching positivity, preaching mindset, preaching on everybody, like finding your vision of what you like and what you enjoy and what you love, and working towards that and being true to yourself, right? And you can see like how I am, like that's when I started, like I had tattoos before. I'm like fully blasted because I'm like, look, I am what I am. You know, I used to wear like long sleeve shirts to cover it up, and then I just got my neck done. I'm like, look, it is what it is. I'm tattooed. Like you either like it, or if you're offended by it, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. And I'm just living my life the way I choose. You know what I mean? And I can now go on vacation somewhere and not work for a week. But that's because of all the sleepless nights that I worked for free, and that I, you know, put in that time to be able to get to that place. But I think there's a lot of people that can, myself included, be doing way more than what we're doing. You know, I just believe in humans, that we have so much potential. And I think with the right energy and the right kind of spark, you know, people can really find that big vision that they're chasing and get some real satisfaction from it.
Yeah. And I love that so much, because it's like, you know, a lot of people get into, I mean, just any business, entrepreneurship, but wholesaling. And it's because what we want is, right, freedom. Some people, it's, you know, maybe it is just about the the materialistic kind of stuff, but for most people, it's like, it's because they want the freedom to, you know, go where they want, with whom they want, how they want, and to have experiences and to really live, you know, fulfilled. And I think that what you're offering is so powerful, because like I think a lot of people, the piece that they struggle with is what you're talking about, like the actual acquisitions, you know, closing deals, right? That's what it's all about. So people who maybe are just getting new, you know, who aren't new, maybe just getting into this, still trying to pursue that. I think what you're offering is like super powerful, especially with all the experience that you have and all the, you know, just everything that you're doing. Like, yeah, I've looked at, you sent me stuff of your course. I think it's really good stuff. Like, it's really awesome. You've put so much, you know, time in it. You know, your group is really cool too. So I highly recommend anybody, I'll put this information in along with this video, but I highly recommend everyone to go check out your stuff. And yeah, man, I really appreciate having you on and being able to have this conversation. It's really awesome. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, brother. Dude, I appreciate you having me on here. And I love what you're doing too. Spreading the good vibes. Let's get it. Let's go. And yeah, dude, it's awesome, man.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, I'll definitely, guys, check that out. Check his information out. I'll put it in the wherever I post this. And thanks for listening, guys. This has been really good. So have a good one.
Perfect. Yeah, and I got some new courses come out, so stay tuned. I got a newbie course, and I also got a full-fledged acquisition training course that's going to take a new hire and bring them through the ranks. So yeah,
awesome.
Thank you, bro.
Awesome, man. All right.